So here we are in beautiful Italy, on site in the village of Guardiaregia Campobasso. Now we're here today to find the long-lost cousins of one of our clients. We don't got a lot of time though, so let's go into town and get to work. Tucked away in the mountains of southern Italy lies the medieval village of Guardiaregia, a picturesque town of only 850 people, many of whom still living off the land as their ancestors did. With such peaceful beauty, it's difficult to imagine the hardships that existed here at the turn of the last century. It was a time when, instead of smiling tourists in a national park, Guardiaregia, like most of southern Italy, was stricken with hunger and disease, causing immigrants to flee in the masses with hopes of a better life in the New World. One of these immigrants was our client's grandmother, Angelina Mucci, who left for New York over 100 years ago, leaving her older sister, Maria, behind. After having lost contact for over half a century, we're here today to find out what happened to Maria and to find her descendants still living here in Guardiaregia. Now for us to do all that and solve this family mystery, we need to get some authorization. The vice mayor's waiting for us here. I placed a call with him the other day, and let's hope for the best. Buongiorno. After explaining our situation, Nicola was more than happy to grant us full access to the records in Guardiaregia, even open up a private office upstairs so we could do our research. Alright, so we got authorization, now it's time for the fun part. Let's take a look at these archives. Inside these old dusty registries is going to be the answer to this family's mystery. So here we are, and this is the hard part too. We know from the Social Security Death Index that Angelina Mucci was born on November 26, 1886. We also know that her mother was Felicia and her father may have been Nicholas. So let's take a look at the records. I soon discovered that Angelina Mucci was actually born Angela Rosa, but that was just a starting point though. After finding her birth certificate, I went on to first research her family tree back and then forward, discovering even more about her older sister's life in Guardiaregia. But records can only take us so far though. After a few hours, it was time to get changed and head into the field to continue the search for Maria's family. So we spent the morning researching here in Guardiaregia doing the Mucci family tree. We not only found Angelina's birth certificate, but we also found the birth certificates of her two younger brothers, Paolo and Paolo, the first Paolo passing away as a baby. And most importantly, we found Maria's birth certificate, this oldest sister, which stayed behind in Italy. We also found her marriage certificate to a Pietro Rotondo, a Peter Rotondo, as well as her kids' birth certificates. And right now we know that a Carmela Rotondo stayed behind here in Italy. And now we're heading to the cemetery to go find her. So the great thing about Italian cemeteries is that one, they're meticulously clean, and two, all of these tombs not only have dates and names, but they also have photos. So let's go see if we can find Carmela Rotondo. I decided to start my search in the oldest part of the cemetery, the crypto. Wow. This paints a little different of a picture in terms of what life was like in Italy 100 years ago. Some of these people were so poor that they didn't even have money for tombs. Look at it. Just enough for a photo, a tin, even for a baby, which is a small wooden crate. Unfortunately, I couldn't find Maria's tomb inside the crypt, so I decided to go into the newer part of the cemetery in search of her daughter, Carmela Rotondo. This is it, come here. Carmela Rotondo. This was her, and it was just the link I needed. Now it's time for the fun part though. So now we found the family in the cemetery. Next step, let's find their house. After getting directions from some locals, I traveled even deeper into the countryside in search of where Angelina and Maria were born. Alright, so guys in town told me to take a right at a sign that said Fonte Laccese, so we did that. And they told us to keep on going until we passed a few houses, passed some countryside, passed a crossing, I guess that must have been it. And then keep on going. So we're keeping on going because we got to get to a neighborhood called Castelvecchio, which is where, which is where Angelina and Maria were born. So we're heading out. Oh, here's the fountain they were talking about. Let's see if we can find somebody to ask for directions. The local we found turned out not only to be helpful, but he wasn't camera shy either. Okay, so that farmer told us we had to keep on going for about 200 yards until we hit a stone wall with a driveway. And I think we just found it. Okay, this has got to be it. That farmer said once you hit a driveway with a stone wall, that's Castelvecchio. We got to keep on following the stone wall, and it's going to be the first house on the left. Come on, let's go. And who said genealogy was boring? This is the best part of the job. Got to get down and dirty, take an adventure. Let's go inside this house. This is the house where Angelina and Maria Mucci was born. Wow. Check this out. This has got to be the cantina. This is where they used to store wine. So back then you're living off the land. You got your animals, you got your wine bottles. Look, there's even some old flasks still left. This thing hasn't been touched in half a century. It's even carved right out of the mountainside. This is awesome. This place literally hasn't been touched in 50, 60 years. Same way it was probably 200 years ago. Look at this. Where the farm animals used to eat. This was their livelihood. They were living off the land. After discovering the cantina below, I went around the abandoned house to see what I could find on the second floor. Okay, we just saw the cantina and we just saw the stallo. That's the area where you store your wine, that's your pantry essentially. And then the stallo, which is where the animals were held. Now on the second floor, this is the actual part where Angelina and Maria were born. This is actually the living quarters. Come on in. You can see the way life was like. You have the fireplace, you have the wood fire oven. Look at this. These here, these little rings, tie up a string. This is where you used to hang your sausage from, your prosciutto, your sausage, whatever. And that's what you'd survive on through the winter. In a town like Guardiaregia, you're talking about being over 2,000 feet up. You get some hard winters here. It's not the Amalfi Coast, that's for sure. Life was tough. All right, that was cool. It's unbelievable to think that we just found the house where Angelina and Maria Mucci was born. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to find living cousins. And what that farmer told us was that if we take a left after we left that street there, street's a little a stretch of the term actually, but we're going to keep on going for about 200 yards until we get to an area called Molino, which means mill. And there's going to be a house that says A and M hand painted on the door. And what he told me was that he remembers Carmela and that her daughter Vittoria is still living here. So let's go find Vittoria. This gets me every time. This is what it's all about. After a full day's work, I'm finally going to meet our client's long-lost family. All right, so here we are. This is Contrada Molino, which Contrada meaning neighborhood, Molino meaning mill. And we can actually see that there's a little old medieval flour mill up there that the water still passes through. But we're not here to see that. We're here for this. A.M. Those are the initials on the door that we're looking for. And inside this house should be Vittoria Minichilo, her name is. Daughter of Carmela Rotondo, who is the daughter of Maria Mucci. This is our client's second cousin, long lost, no contact for at least 60 years. Let's knock on the door and see who's home.